Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the class Buddhism 305, Buddhism in East Asia. Today, the date is April 10th, 2023, our second session, second week. I hope last week's introduction gave you some very important information about the course and how it is being conducted and how and what part you have to play your role as students in the class. Some of you have asked me how long you can take for the to complete your homework. Usually within the week, say for instance, for today's homework that you get in the email, you have to complete it before the next week's class. So you have one whole week to complete your homework and submit it. As I told you, with the name, with your name. Some of you don't listen to me, it seems, because you send your homework and I don't know who you are. So please, in your homework paper, whatever the paper that you, it had to be Word, right? Microsoft Word. So first put your name and then the homework, whatever you do. Then that way I know how to track you, how to keep track and grade you, evaluate you. Otherwise, I don't know. Without looking at the email, I cannot recognize you. I mean, email address. So you have to mention your name and the class in the paper. Okay, that's a must. Otherwise, nothing is possible. So, according to our background last week, so this class is about Buddhism in East Asia, how Buddhism flourishes actually in these countries. In these countries means East Asian countries, especially China, Japan, and Korea. I told you last time. And today's lecture is on as a background, we are looking at the basics of Buddhism. When I say basics, it means the fundamental teachings of Buddhism. Why do we look at fundamental teachings of Buddhism? Because it is the backbone. It is the backbone. It is the ground on which all the other traditions and all the other cultures evolved out of these teachings. So we have to look at those teachings and understand how they are working in other cultures, other settings. So that's why we are looking at this thing. So as you may know, Buddhism arose in India, in Indian culture, Indian background, out of Hinduism. Today we call it Hinduism, but those days it was no Hinduism, but the same teachings. So out of those teachings, offshoot came, and that is Buddhism. Buddhism and the Hinduism, both these religions share some similarities, like the concept of samsara. Samsara, this is a word that you need to remember, okay? Samsara, S-A-M-S-A-R-A, samsara. What is samsara? Samsara is cycle of birth and death. According to Hindu concept and also Buddhist concept, all human beings are in a cycle. We are circling in this cycle. You are born and you live and you die and you are born again. So birth and rebirth, all these things are related in our life. So we are living this world right now and we will die, and then we will be reborn again. That type of philosophy. So that is called samsara. So what these religions, especially Buddhism, what Buddhism is trying to teach us is that this samsara is a big problem, because it's never-ending thing. You do not know the beginning of this thing and the end of this thing, right? If you are born and then you live and then you die and reborn and again and again and again, endless thing. Especially it's represented as a cycle. When you say a cycle around, it means that there is no beginning or no end. Can you show me, you draw a cycle, you draw a round, complete round, and can you show me the beginning of the round or the end of the round? No. In a cycle, you cannot locate a beginning or an end. In the same way, human life is caught up in that kind of cycle, that kind of circle, round of birth and death, or cycle of birth and death. And the real Pali term, samsara. So Buddhism tries to solve this problem. We have to get rid of this samsara in order to stop it. That's the big challenge that everybody has to do on their own. That's the most important thing. On their own, you have to do it yourself. Nobody else can get you out of samsara. This is the beautiful part about Buddhism. Hinduism, a little bit different. In Buddhism, you are your own master. That's one of the basic Buddhist teachings, okay? You are your own master. You reap what you sow. You reap whatever the grain you sow, you reap the same thing. So in that sense, you are your own master. Nobody else can save you. You have to work on your salvation, your liberation. Your liberation is when you are out of this samsara. When you get rid of this samsara, when you are away from this samsara, free from samsara, free from this cycle of birth and death, then your liberation is right there. So in order to get that liberation, in order to reach there, you have to work on yourself. Nobody else can save you. Others can help you. Like Buddhist teachings will help you to be free from samsara. But Buddha or any other enlightened person cannot take you from here to the liberation. No, that is impossible. So in that sense, then the Buddhism teaches that there are certain things that you need to practice. Okay. So the way that Buddhism teaches this thing is that one of the primary Buddhist teachings is Four Noble Truths. Maybe you have heard this in other classes. If you have, then it's easier for you to understand this thing. If not, you have to do a little research and see what it is. Four Noble Truths. Four Noble Truths describes how human suffering arises and how you have to eliminate suffering, how you have to get rid of suffering. So the first truth, they are categorized as four truths. First truth is, it says that life is suffering. Life is unsatisfactory. No matter how rich you are, how much resources available to you, no matter how influential you are, or whatever things that you have, life is not satisfactory. Unsatisfaction, dissatisfaction is called suffering. So life is suffering generally for everybody, either poor or rich or, powerful or not powerful. Life is suffering. You have to accept it as a fact. Eventually, because everything changes. That is why it is suffering. Everything changes. Today you may be rich, but tomorrow, who knows? Things will go wrong and you become a very desperate person. So then, since this is changing, life is suffering. Life is dissatisfaction. So that is why it is suffering. The very first truth is that human life is suffering, dissatisfied. And then second truth, why life is dissatisfied, why life is suffering. The second truth named as cause of suffering. First one is suffering. Second one is the cause of suffering. What is the cause of suffering? What is the cause of dissatisfaction? The cause is because we have too much attachment, too much desire, we suffer. If you do not have desire, you don't have to suffer. When you are attached to things, when you are attached to your body, suffering arises. When you are attached to your things, personal things, properties, or whatever, suffering is there. That is the cause. So desire is the cause for suffering. In other words, if you can get rid of desire, lust, in Pali term is tanha, if you can be free from tanha, free from desire, then you are away from suffering. Answer is also there, right? So the first noble truth is that life is suffering. Second one is the cause of suffering, which is desire. And the third one, if desire is the problem, then there should be an answer for this issue, the problem. The answer, the freedom from suffering, right? Life, if the problem is suffering, so in order to get rid of suffering, you have to have freedom, right? It is possible. There is something called freedom from suffering. That is the third noble truth. Noble truth of what do you call the stopping, away from suffering, free from suffering. And then that is called, in Buddhism, of course, that is called nirvana. If the free from suffering, free from desire, is that state is called nirvana. So nirvana is the solution. Okay, life is suffering. Desire is the cause of suffering. The third truth is the answer for that thing is attaining enlightenment. So attaining enlightenment is the answer for the problem of suffering. And then how are we going to do this thing? That is called the path leading to the stopping of suffering or cessation of suffering. That's the word usually in English, that is the word they use, cessation of suffering. Cessation means stopping, ceasing. So third noble truth, you can say cessation of suffering. And the fourth one, path leading to the cessation of suffering, the stopping of suffering, to be free from suffering. And there is a specific path taught by the Buddha, and it is called Noble Eightfold Path. Very famous. It's a way of life. Some people say it's a way of life. Some people say that is something to practice in order to be away from all kinds of suffering. So Noble Eightfold Path, I'm not going to discuss all those things here because I'm just trying to give you a basic Buddhist fundamental Buddhist teachings. So look at them. If you want to learn them, widely, deep. If you want to have a deep understanding about these things, you have to do little research and find them out, or you may learn those things in another class. So anyway, these Four Noble Truths across the board, any given Buddhist tradition, when I say any given Buddhist traditions, you have to understand that in the history, Buddhism underwent changes. It evolved into different sects and different traditions. For instance, now, if you are talking today, now there are 3 prominent traditions, branches of Buddhism. First one is the oldest one, Theravada, the way of the elders. And the next one is Mahayana, the greater vehicle. And third one is Vajrayana or Tantrayana, the third branch. But across the board, all these traditions accept that these noble truths are the same. That is the beauty. The noble teachings are the same. Basic teachings are the same across the board. So here, in this class, we are looking at Buddhism in East Asia. Buddhism in East Asia is not Theravada Buddhism. Theravada Buddhism is in South Asia. South Asia is like Sri Lanka, Thailand, Burma, Myanmar. Those countries, we find the Theravada tradition. But in East Asia, where we are talking, you find the prominence is in Mahayana tradition. But the basic teachings are the same, Four Noble Truths and 3 characteristics of existence. When I say 3 characteristics of existence means life is suffering and life is changing, impermanent, and then there is no soul, there is no unchanging entity in you. Everything changes. It is because everything changes that there is suffering. So this type of teaching. And then another fundamental teaching is that cause and effect. Nothing happens without a cause. Even suffering. Suffering has a cause. Just like that, anything for that matter in this world, there is a cause behind it. So causal relationships of anything in this world is explained in Buddhism, and it is called dependent origination. Depending on certain things, certain causes, effects are arisen. That's how it is explained. So depending on some certain conditions, results arise. So in that way, anything in the world you can find, you can trace the causes. And karma, another teaching, it's also cause and effect. If you do bad, you will get bad results. If you do good, you will get good results. So whatever goes, whatever comes, whatever goes, it happens, it comes back to you. So this is, there are many other teachings, but basically these teachings across the board, all traditions accept as basic Buddhist teachings. And based on these teachings, this is the important thing you need to understand. Based on these teachings, these countries, Japan, Korea, and China, they have developed certain other new teachings. Based on these teachings, remember that thing. They have evolved new teachings and new customs and new traditions. That is what we are going to look at in this class. So then when you go to China, you will see different practices, but the basic teachings the same. So based on those teachings, according to Chinese culture, Chinese people have evolved certain other new traditions, chanting and many different things. We will see them in our future classes. So in this class, you have to do a little research on the fundamental or the basic Buddhist teachings. When I say basic Buddhist teachings, as I told you, you have to look at the Four Noble Truths, Noble Eightfold Path, Dependent Origination, Karma or Cause and Effect, and then also 3 characteristics of existence. 3 characteristics of existence. So learn these words, and then if you are not familiar with them, you can do little research and expand, widen your understanding. That will be for your benefit. And that's the lecture today. After doing the homework, I will give something, and then you will be able to widen your knowledge more. Okay? Any questions, please ask me. Thank you very much for joining today's class, and hopefully you will be able to submit your homework within the week. Before the next class, please submit it. Okay? Thank you.